Oh, yes, it did. It went live. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening.
Let's hope I don't freak.
Oh, he's all alone. Almost, Simon almost got it right. He's almost all alone. We're waiting for Sean to arrive. Ian's tardy and late. Who are you going to turn to? Who are you going to call?
He's tardy and late. My goodness, he's doubled up there.
He is tardy and late. Exactly. That's twice as bad. That is. Well, I'll fluff a little bit around here before. Oh, here we go.
They're all popping in there. Hi, Johnny.
Now, hey, Sean. G'day, Sean. How are you? Let's put you at the top. You're more important than me. We are live.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. Is he opening? Are you opening an appropriate adult beverage?
No, I don't drink alcohol, man.
Oh, okay. Well, I say it's with the thing to do.
Stick to the end, that's what I say.
It's just a good old Arizona tea from a good old Arizona boy, you know.
Oh, if you say so. I don't really know what that means. I don't know. So, Sean, let's jump. Nothing to drink here. Let's just jump straight into some great stuff that Sean's done. Let's put it up on the screen here. Now, if you've not found the Zero Lux, you should find the Zero Lux, dear viewer. Sean Campbell has put in some FOIAs, and well, I'll let you take it away, Sean, because it's your story, not mine.
Yeah, give me a second. I was just pulling up your chat because I realized last time I was watching, I was like, oh, it's mostly on YouTube, huh?
And LinkedIn, yeah.
How can we be enlightened by Zero Lux?
Well, quite so.
Yeah.
Well, go to the zerolux.com. Yeah, I mean, that was this year. What you're looking at is the first part, right? This is when I started looking into the whole incident that happened in Kerrville, Texas, versus the Black Hawk helicopter and the drone. So it was originally reported there was like a rogue pilot, and the PIO, which for those who don't know who that is, that's like the comms person for the city. And they put out a statement on the official city Facebook page, and basically corporate media and some legacy media like Newsweek, I think Forbes, I think I might have found a Politico. You've got some Fox. You've got every local network in Texas ran with it, but it made national news as well. I mean, it was an alleged collision with a Black Hawk helicopter. Now, we didn't know who it was in relation to at the time. We didn't know which military operation owned the Black Hawk helicopter, but it was presumed basically they just put it out and said it was a rogue, pilot, which suggested that it was a civilian pilot, and they were just flying recklessly. They hit a Black Hawk helicopter. The Black Hawk helicopter forced landing. I mean, it was just all kinds of weird verbiage, and then everybody ran with it. I mean, this thing blew up. Millions and millions of people, as far as impressions and views and stuff like that online. And then you've got to mix in broadcasting, so local news, national news, if they broadcasted it. But this thing's been seen across the aisle millions and millions of times. And now, normally in this case, if something like that happens, right, we would have some information. And as a journalist, I can tell you that if somebody flew, let's just use the NFL stadium, right? During the Super Bowl as an example, we would have that person's name, their blood type, their social security number. In the news industry, we would have that usually within a couple hours, if not literally 20 minutes, much less. It was going on 3 weeks and we had no information. So, I did have I did start looking into it. I got some insider tips. I dug. I found out that it was not a civilian pilot. So that story there is where it begins. And then I think I wrote technically I wrote 3 articles, but I think there's 4 or 5, there's one update, and then I wrote an article after that. I don't know if you guys want to pull up the final one I wrote about it.
Well, let's have a look. You point the way. You point the way. This one, official narrative unravels. The lobbying lies.
Yeah, that one right there.
Eyewitnesses confirm lobbying lies.
So that's going to be the actual drone, and that has the that number right there actually leads back to the Texas Highway Patrol, which is part of DPS. So that's the drone that hit the Army National Guard helicopter. The Army National Guard helicopter, it landed. It performed emergency landing. It did do that. We also have the geodata based off of the drone sense, that's a DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise, by the way. So it was running drone sense. It had, it wouldn't have made a difference if ADSB was on or off or not. It's completely irrelevant, but people like to talk about it. So anybody who doesn't know anything about drone sense, it comes standard from like their software comes standard. It's off and it's very difficult to turn on. So it was off, and then you've got a Black Hawk helicopter. It's either off or it doesn't have one. But again, ADSB wouldn't have saved it in this scenario. Anyways, the pilot is sitting is a Texas Highway Patrol officer. They're sitting in their vehicle and they have it on return to home. It hit the tail rotor, and the city. This is all stuff I feel like it would have just gone swept under the rug. Now the city actually had a press. I would say a press conference. It wasn't a press conference. They had a city council meeting, and they did briefly mention this. The Texan, they recorded they recorded that city council meeting, but they didn't even know they had it. So they kind of the city did technically mention it, but then nobody caught it. Like nobody caught the fact that the city went, "Oh, we screwed up," and then they never made a public statement until I started emails.
Oh.
I hit them with Texas Freedom of Information Acts. I FOIA'd everybody that I could FOIA. Obviously, the NTSB isn't going to get back to me. The FAA. I FOIA'd the Army National Guard. Yesterday, I spoke directly. Finally, I spoke with somebody at DPS. And they did confirm that they obviously have my Freedom of Information Act in the directory. And with that, obviously I know the story, but what I want to do is I want it all on official record. And I want to be able to prevent, flight logs, all the data that we are requesting. So that's kind of what comes next. But we know what happens because in that article, I have not only do I have unconfirmed sources that I can't use because of anonymity concerns, like because of what they do for their jobs. But I do have eyewitness testimony who not only witnessed that, as you can see, they have the photos, they have the drone sense software. They were there when it happened. So there are a couple people who don't necessarily work in like DFR or SAR specifically for organizations. And so because their jobs weren't at risk, they did come forward and they were able to talk on official capacity.
It's just, well, in our comments, you can see people are, it does remind us of so many things. You were very confident in your assertion then that ADSB wouldn't have helped, but you can't be that confident in your assertion because we've just been told today, in order to have Part 108 and all the other good things in life, ADSB is the one thing to rule them all. It can't possibly go wrong. Why are you so certain in your assertion that ADSB would have helped?
I'm not an aviation expert. I just wrote an article recently on the whole ADSB thing. I know you saw that. I went to the aviation experts to talk to about that because this is a big discussion, obviously, in the UAS and in the UAS community. I'm not the guy to come to say, hey, are you in it? No, I'm not an aviation expert. I don't have a manned aircraft license. I have not been flying, commercial liners or anything like that for, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is. I went to the experts themselves and including people, that are somewhere probably at an air traffic control somewhere and everything else. And yes, ADSB is super helpful from my understanding to pilots in there, but it's
just jump in for a moment. I think Gary's been slightly facetious. He knows very well that ADSB is not useful enough because there's a myth that all the planes flying about have got the ADSB turned on while they haven't, and that's the problem. people make that assumption, and it's an assumption that's wrong.
Right. It's also an assumption that I think that's wrong, is that, like, one, that you can just put it in everything. That's not true. It's also not true that, like, the air traffic control uses ADSB first. They still they rely heavily on radar first, always. They still do to this day. And is from everybody I've spoken to, they have no desire to change that. It's what works. It's what's been working in aviation across the world for decades and decades. And then DJI itself, if it had been, technically speaking, if it had not had drone sense on it, it would have had air sense and it would have had ADSB anyways, but that wouldn't have stopped the collision. The collision happened because the pilot in control had it on return to home, had no line of sight, and decided to be lazy. And I'm not like trying to like be like, oh, this is because this person worked in this capacity, but that's just the fact of the matter. The helicopter itself, although it did drop below altitude as far as what was set by the information center. However, as we all know, as UAS pilots, we have to wave to all manned aircraft. So it was on the remote pilot to do their job. Unfortunately, they didn't, and that's why this happened. The good thing is that this was a Black Hawk helicopter and not a private helicopter, because then this could have been absolutely devastating. The Black Hawk helicopter was back up in the air within like 1 to 2 hours.
There's a fairly small drone, isn't it? So in truth, it would depend where it hit the helicopter, were it a civilian one. We've seen drones of this kind of size where they bounced off helicopters, but it's definitely not a thing you want to be testing.
Yeah, but it's another
it hit the tail. It hit the tail rotor though. If it was a smaller.
Oh well, yeah, that's quite a dangerous place. Yeah,
but again, it shows that we had yet another collision between a manned aircraft and a drone, and yet again, nobody's been injured, nobody's died. It's this whole sort of narrative that if a drone hits a helicopter, everyone will die, has been disproven every time there has been a collision. But the number of collisions are incredibly low compared to the number of collisions between manned aircraft.
I've come in a bit late here, but I'm going to use the sort of powers of telepathy or whatever else it is and try and imagine what's going on here. So let me guess. Because it's a police officer that's flying, it isn't all danger, death, someone needs to go to prison. But if it was someone that was a hobbyist that had done it, it would be headlines everywhere and they should go down.
No, it was not. It was a hobbyist to start with. It was a hobbyist until Sean, Freedom of Information requested and discovered, it wasn't. And asked around. Yeah, I did him a disservice.
But the point being is, for that to have happened, someone in authority knows that it was a police officer.
Yeah,
there should have been the noise.
There's
hands held up.
There's more than like one person. I mean, there's so many people who knew about this. Some of them obviously scared to come forward because of their jobs, or they didn't know who to go to. There's, I get a range of different reasons. This was one of those things that, this was specifically used in Congress. When Michael Robbins, I believe he did use it. I think that's in like my thing. Tom Sparks has referenced this. So you've got all these lobbyists and whatnot, whether they're testifying in front of Congress or they're using their own social media platforms as well to amplify this. And they use Kerrville as an example because it was the most recent example. And to basically, say, hey, we need to ban this technology. This is why. And it turns out that, for one, this is the technology that was used. And two, it was not a rogue pilot. It was not just some regular civilian person flying around recklessly. This happened to be, somebody who works in the DFR community, and they were the remote pilot in control, and they chose a return to home option instead of getting out of the vehicle, having line of sight over their aircraft and bringing it in manually. If they had done that, obviously, I think we all know that what would have happened is they would have seen the Black Hawk helicopter coming, and they would have deviated from the return to home, flight path, and they would have flown it manually, and this wouldn't have happened.
So, was it flying as a DFR aircraft out of a box from the back of a vehicle? I didn't pick that bit up. If it was,
I don't know that specific. That's kind of
okay.
those are the things that I'm working. I just know that that person that's flying is somebody who's in the DFR community.
Did he have?
Because-
Was he Canadian trained? Did he get trained by the RCMP because he's got the skills for that?
Do you aware, Sean, that in Canada the only two aircraft that have been hit by drones have been Canadian police aircraft, and they've both been hit by Canadian policemen. So it's 100% hit rate for the Canadian. That's right, isn't it, Bruce? I did get that right, didn't I? I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. Because if that was a drone in the box from the DFR thing, that rather. Well, that's just interesting. But of course, let's not forget. Actually, the whole situation was a horrific situation that was going on. This isn't people just flying around the park. It was saving lives. So it was the whole thing was a horrendous situation, and that certainly puts stresses and strains on the whole thing. And thank goodness nobody was injured in this and added to the numbers. But well done for exposing it. It's brilliant. And the reason I put Simon's comment up, I don't know if you picked that up, Ian, even though your head's covered now, so you probably can't read the comment. Mate, is that how this works? But the lessons learned document, I think from our own or your own freedom of information request, that's a very sort of term we need to learn, and it's interesting afterwards. And those are interesting document trails to find if you can find them. Can you elaborate on that, or have I put my foot in it again?
No, I think was that me or was that Sean?
That was it. You to start with, Ian, and then
okay. We've had this thing in the UK with Gatwick. There is a lessons learned document for that, and it has been kept hidden for years. And having finally found it, there's a big fight on to stop it ever seeing the light of day. So that's why I'd mentioned the joke of it's kind of the whole irony and comedy in it. You have the lessons learned, but nobody can read it. So how does industry learn the lessons?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously in this one, it's training between agencies, isn't it? There's the army and the police and operating together, interoperability. I know on Salisbury Plain, one of the very early, what was that fixed wing thing that they used in Desert Storm that the Talon is a copy of? Whatever that is, anyway, whatever the Talon is a copy of. Lockheed Martin made it, I think. One of those hit a helicopter on Salisbury Plain, and they were working together. Operationally, and they still managed to come together. But sorry, I stopped you earlier, Sean, and ranted on. What were you going to say?
You were good. I was trying to look up the. I like verbatim. I wanted to tell the public everything that I requested. Here it is. Hold on. Let me log in. If you guys want to continue, then I'll tell you everything that I requested from DP. Because the one thing is, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's gonna. I don't know that like the Army National Guard is gonna respond to me. I don't even know if the FAA is gonna respond to me, because I don't know if this even reached them. I don't know, like, because it's my understanding from everybody, and this is from over a dozen sources, that this thing was inspected quickly. They decided that it was operational and it was back in the air. But I just want to kind of confirm that, and I want all the records. But I'll let you guys know everything that I did request. Let me just look it up here.
Well, we have recent experience of the FAA, the Air Force, the US Air Force. Who else have you got recent experience of? All those people that you've got me on the no-fly list for. Well, thanks, Ian.
I haven't asked the FAA yet. Actually, they're one for the future, I think. But we've got FBI. And US.
Oh yeah, those ones. Yes.
And we're trying the Secret Service as well. That's quite a good start to a three.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for that. And what can we say? What can you say about your? Well, I'll just say it. And then, can we talk a little bit about your win this week, Ian?
Yeah, we can probably do it a bit later on in the show, or I can just tell you briefly, because there isn't that much to read on things, I might as well just discuss it because it's a straightforward one. But we will have talked about it on the show before, but it is one of the most stupidest freedom of information fights in the whole history of freedom of information, I think, because I made a request to the Home Office saying, what files about Gatwick have you got on SharePoint? And basically the Home Office said it would breach national security to admit they had SharePoint and that terrorists and criminals could use that information. And it would basically be the complete downfall of democracy in the UK. So I was like, well, that's strange, because SharePoint's just like saying, well, we've got Microsoft Excel or we've got Microsoft Word. It isn't a big, spoiler. But the worst thing with this is, while they're making this argument, all they had to do is go to Google and to the Home Office, and straight away they have adverts for SharePoint developers to work at the Home Office. They have tenders for SharePoint skilled people, and the Home Office staff are on LinkedIn telling the world about their brilliant skills.
SharePoint skills. I know.
I had to take all screenshots of this and then make this as a complaint to the ICO. So it's had weeks of investigation, a judgment of numerous pages, which will be published in 30 days' time. So, but basically, the Home Office have got 30 days to decide whether they want to take this to tribunal and argue it, which I very much doubt they will want to do. So in that time, it doesn't get published, just in case they decide to do that. But I was just like, well, when this, I think actually Richard Ryan might have even helped me. He certainly would have reviewed what I said on this, because it felt a really silly one to have to do. But it was important, because if you let something as daft as that slide and just don't do out about it, you then just inviting every freedom of information to get equally as silly knockbacks. So it was, well, we'll go through with it anyway. So I kind of would have been absolutely shocked if I'd not have won it in those circumstances. But there we are.
So the Information Commissioner has ruled in your favour this week.
Yeah, there were 2 points in it, actually. So they ruled in my favour for one and didn't for two, but two didn't matter because I'd already done a reworded freedom of information, got me the answer for two. So basically, I got 100% of what I needed out of it. So that's my first interaction with the Home Office on an ICO complaint, and I've won. So it's nice to be the first with that authority and start off with a win. And I have initiated today my first complaint against the MOD, and the MOD, this is Lake and Heath, and they've already been so hostile. It was clear that this wasn't just somebody working in the Freedom of Information Department that was applying. It was definitely going to a legal team or solicitor. So every exemption in the book was thrown at it, but I've already started working on it, and I started off with the most difficult one first before this show, which is why I was a little bit late. And I've already got a good 3/4 of A4, really solid counter argument on that 1 point. So I'm building up a big argument, and I've got if things are all fair and equal in the world, I've got a very good chance of winning against them, I think.
Well, there's your schoolboy error. If all things are fair and equal,
that's
there's your mistake. There's definitely a mistake. Now, are you allowed to mention the term that they used in that judgment that you won, that they didn't like them using?
I can't remember that now.
I can neither confirm nor deny that they were using that statement.
Oh, neither confirm nor deny is what comes up all the time, and it's the one I hate the most. And that's, in fact, what I was dealing with the Ministry of Defence. I mean, this is that one. The Ministry of Defence are doing a neither confirm nor deny about the fact that AUKUS went to the US Air Force bases, despite the fact it was released by Leonardo and it was in the Times newspaper. So it's like, why are we arguing about things that are in the public domain? So that was actually part of the argument I was preparing with this, was like, why are we even having this conversation saying this will, fundamentally destroy national security when everyone, anyone that uses it can use Google knows.
That'd be a really proud boast if we managed to do that, though, wouldn't it? And just
Yeah.
undermine world security just from this little thing. That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Don't you
What-
just
what
have
a-
to let boats come across the channel to do that?
Yeah, it is something like that, isn't it? So, but I know there's a lot of paperwork, and there's a lot of Ian is the swan just gliding gracefully above across our screen here, whilst his little legs are paddling away. There's an awful lot of work going on at the moment.
Now, is it
there's-
like is it different for you when you file your request? I don't know where you're at, because you sound like you're obviously in another country. So
Yeah, it's the UK. So I've actually just started doing US ones actually, but the difference we have with ours is in the US, if you're not a newspaper, journalistic publication, whatever, you've got to pay, and then so if you are, you can ask for an exemption to that, and you get 2 hours search and I think 100 copies of documents or something. In the UK, it's actually free to anyone, but there's a number of exemptions that could come back. And ours is really supposed to be you get your answers back in 20 days. It doesn't work like that. Things are pushed out, and some of mine have gone on for years. So what we don't have, which you do have in the US, is that ultimately you can take the authority to court if they're not answering.
Right.
Where here, we can't do that personally, but we have what's called an information commissioner. So we go to them, and they kind of fight it on our behalf. But they will kind of, they can be swayed by either party. So sometimes you'll go to them with a very just cause, and then they'll be fighting you against the other party. So you've actually then got two people to fight on your hands to get there at the end to get the answers. So it can end up being a lot more complicated and slower, despite the fact that it was built on the principles the US created and was supposed to be better, but in reality, it's not.
So this is always my recommendation to anybody who's like independent media. At the very least, especially because it's like it's global. Join, well, it's like, I believe it is. I think they have different chapters. Like I know people in the UK that are part of the NPPA, which is the National Press Photographers Association. You join that, you're automatically an accredited journalist for the most part. Okay, and like as long as you're doing some type of journalism. And yeah, on the US side, that is true. I have not ran into many issues. I've never had to take anybody to court. It could just be with the nature of my requests. Not sure. I know people that have waited, that have had to wait months, as well as some that have ended up in court. Every single person I know, however, who has ended up in court, they have won. That's, you know, by the time it's all said and done, and they do get those records. So it's just kind of silly on the U.S. government's part to kind of argue this. There are times when some of it is so sensitive that yes, they get enough information to where they can obviously go to publish, but there might be some stuff that's left out or redacted. And that would be like extreme national security, where they just cannot absolutely not release it. Could be a matter of, you know, certain names that could compromise security concerns, things of that nature. They might work in certain capacities and they can't release those names, stuff like that. But as far as like information, like I'm requesting, like, you know, I requested the preliminary or final investigative documents, internal memos, communications, or summaries regarding the incident. I feel like they're not going to give that to me, but I asked for it anyways. Correspondence with Texas DPS, the FAA, or any involved agencies, and then any safety advisories, notes, or incident logs that mention or derived from this event. So that's kind of the verbiage you would want to use, at least in the US. I imagine it'd be probably similar if you're in the UK. Stuff like that. I mean, you want to be pretty technical about it, pretty precise in what you're looking for in your findings. Definitely don't talk like you're a human being. And also, I wouldn't necessarily say go on ChatGPT and rely on that, because that might spit out some nonsense. So just fact check that, guys, if you're going to do that. It's your right to request one, whether you're a journalist or not. Like Hive mentioned, though, if you are not a member of the press, each country is going to have their own fees. You can ask them to waive that regardless. I did ask the Texas DPS in this case for the Freedom of Information Act. I asked them to waive it. I asked for the Army National Guard to waive it. I asked for the FAA to waive it. I said, this is my company. I gave them my license number as far as, my company registration and all that stuff. I said, it is a media company. It's registered. We're licensed, all that stuff. And so I would assume if for some reason they were actually going to respond to me. And in the US right now, everything has become automated on the FOIA side, which I'm not used to. They really don't want you mailing that stuff in anymore because it just gets lost, and it takes longer for them to sift through that paperwork than it does to have their systems just automate the process, have somebody look at it, make sure it's credible, and then get it going down the road. When I spoke to Texas DPS yesterday, they're actually super helpful. She was very nice. She apologized for the breakdown in communication. She couldn't find my original emails. I don't know, so I'll have to check that. I don't know if that has something to do with my personal business emails. I ended up sending it from my Gmail account, and she got it in seconds. And she's like, let me go ahead and expedite this up the chain. With the Texas Freedom of Information Act, from the day you file it, they have 10 days to respond to your request. So mine's still active. I just checked it. It's still active. It's still on the website. You can look it up. I think I've put the request number on LinkedIn, and it's on X, Twitter. I'm not sure if it's on Facebook, but it's on most of the Zero Lux social media accounts, and I think it might be in our articles. So you can go look those up yourself and track the status of it. And once I get that information, I will be publishing another article with the details of that, and then cross-referencing with everything that I found throughout this whole process. Because this was a process that took days, weeks. I mean, the investigation itself was weeks, but new information kept coming out every day from that first article. Because once that first article basically unleashed the floodgates, I had so many people coming to me that had witnessed it or knew something about it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that knew about this, and that it's kind of upsetting because this puts a lot of, I don't know, again, we're commercial pilots by the fact that we have a 107. We're flying commercially, but for those out there who can't afford the Mavic clone, the NZ Robotics, or Skydio, or I don't know why you would fly that if you're a commercial pilot, but let's even say in a case where you're flying a center lifter kind of model with a Sony, what is it, LFR1 or whatever. It's probably not the right model number, but one of the Sony cameras on it, and you're doing surveying and mapping and stuff like that. So it's just, I mean, those are anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 in the US. And the average person just doesn't have money for that. For the people who do, congrats, your business has made it to that level, and I got nothing but respect for you, but not everybody can afford that. So, and when you go and you do this and you blame it on a civilian pilot, that was my issue, especially just knowing that the damage that could be done, watching these congressional testimonies, watching this play out on social media, watching this play out in media. And for those who don't know, before I did this, I came from TV news, and I was a frontline journalist for over a decade. So I know how the news industry works. And this was just I can't believe that nobody thought to follow up with this. I mean, 3 weeks had gone by, nobody went, we don't even know the name of the pilot.
Well,
yeah.
We're very used to seeing that drones get blamed and nobody follows it up. I don't know if you've followed what was going on with Lakenheath here, but we had which we'd followed throughout on this show until the truth came out. But it was very close to a drone being blamed for nearly hitting a police helicopter, and then it turned out it was a US Air Force F-15 that allegedly didn't have all its lights turned on. But that only came out really because I suspect just to all the pressure and questioning that happened. But that just doesn't normally happen. And it was very fortunate. But every time there's a drone incident, it's let's see the evidence. And very rare that you ever see any evidence.
Yeah, we that one we started talking about that straight away. I think we even did a live stream on the second night. I can't remember. And just as happens to you, Sean, lots of people who can't possibly be mentioned said, "Hey, well, this is what it was." And there was various things we also heard about, and then you do have to go. You have to nag Ian. to get the right words into freedom of information request. But the great thing with the Lakenheath one was, so Ian's FOIA expertise comes out of Gatwick, the whole Gatwick thing, which was used in America just this very week as an excuse of see why drones are bad and evil. And there is zero proof, and lots of other things about the Gatwick one. And that one, if I want to really go to the bottom line with that, I firmly believe now was just a chicken little cock up, the sky's falling in, some little thing happened, not a drone or anything, because the weather was awful. But because they overreacted and delayed so many flights, the airport is, if it were to be and not a drone, they owe hundreds of thousands of passengers a lot of money for those disruptive flights. The truth's not going to come out on that one. It's not going to come out. Louis back. He hasn't been forever, and we're talking about Gatwick. Louis, how are you? Sorry, man. Louis hates Gatwick. We're smoking, and there he is there. Louis, you see
that legitimate excuse, though, and we'll have to show that later in the show about how it's being used now in America to try and influence politicians.
Yeah. So we just like you, Sean. As soon as you find something and then publish it, people stand up and say, actually, this is what happened, but I'm not going to go on the record. So then you've got to find a way of getting the information, and that's
well. Thankfully, like when the story, like as it developed and I started releasing more, as I got more information, and I continued to publish, I got people to come on record finally. Obviously, these aren't individuals who work in they don't work directly in the industry where they can get in trouble if they speak out. That's just not going to happen. And I've had very few people question my reporting, but the few have always been, oh, well, you're using whistleblowers and anonymous. I'm like, yeah, because I have to protect them. That's called journalism. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like I'm not local news, so I'm not bound by ABC or NBC or local Fox affiliates for like Scripps News or Hearst or, all the other they're just for people who don't understand the news industry, like they're umbrella corporations and then they have like affiliates under them. Anyways, it's irrelevant. I'm not that. I said I can use anonymous sources. My sources are credible. They're checked. Everything. I don't just take people on face value because they DM me somewhere or whatever the case may be. Like this is the whole reason why we found out about how much spying was going on in the United States in relations to Snowden. If it weren't for, and even though he did go on the record and then run, but there's been other whistleblowers that can't obviously come out because of the capacity that they worked, and there's some that have. Now the U.S. has changed some of their laws on that, right? We have some protection for whistleblowers depending on what capacity they work in, but a lot of those folks, they lose their jobs, they lose their livelihoods. Like what are they supposed to do when they have kids and a wife, or kids and a husband, or whatever the case may be, right? Like they can't just come out and be like, hey, yeah, you can quote me on that, and then the next day they're whichever department they work in, whichever 3-letter agency or whatever the case may be, that they're getting fired, which would be a horrible situation. Or even worse would be, depending on where they work, they could obviously be brought in front of some type of court or whatever the case may be. So sorry, world, but I'm not going to give you those sources. It's never going to happen. You can subpoena me, you can try to, you can subpoena me, you can take me to jail. I don't care. So
yeah. It's just a shame, but I'm glad, and I was delighted to see that somebody else had started using FOIAs in this space again. That's and from our side. Because
are you saying you don't like the press release regurgitation method? Just
what, like I do? What do you mean?
Gary,
I live and die by it. Yeah. No,
I mean, that's kind of like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's a place for everything. Like press releases, obviously we use them in local news all the time. I mean, we use those and then we contact people, and then that's how we build relationships. And that's how we build stories. So it's built on those press releases. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but yeah, I mean, I don't know about other people who are, I'd seen Hive, I'd seen your tweets. I wasn't aware that there weren't other people obviously doing this type of stuff. I just figured like it was commonplace in the news industry in general, if I'm being honest. Yeah, but after speaking with you, I know like recently that wasn't the case. So people weren't like actually requesting the information.
No, I don't know what an analogy would be. The whole commercial drone space is, well, it's in two spaces. It's either military or the civilian stuff, and the civilian stuff is like car salesman brochures. Really, at the end of the day, it's just loads of those on the doctor's waiting room, lying around. It's not really serious, and most of the industry reports. But I'm sure it's the same. Bruce is long-time journalist, he'd be experienced at this, but I'm sure there's many industries you can say exactly the same thing about. It's just fluff and stuff, most of it, which is a great shame. We try and drop real stuff in. I certainly try and drop in all the really crazy stuff as well, because I know that people that come to SU News and the viewers here actually know their stuff, and if they'll laugh at it, they'll laugh at it. I don't want to, they can sort the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, and you've decided no artificial intelligence. You took it a step further, no intelligence.
No intelligence. Yeah, that's right. Artificial or otherwise, exactly. Yes, none at all. Yeah. Well, I have put a couple of things that I've used that for, because other people's things have annoyed me so much. I thought, oh, here we are. Let's find a way of writing 1,000 words on this, like all these other buggers have, But again, I know that you lot can see that. It's a pity, because it's part of the reason that's holding the industry back is all the nonsense and venture capital funded nonsense that's put out there. It's got in the way. And the Part 108 thing in America today, it was someone mentioned theatre there. It was the theatre of the organizations, wasn't it? Here we all are, look what we've done.
Yeah.
No, you haven't. Not
yeah,
yet.
I've had so many people reach out to me who were really excited on Part 108, and they kept saying, "Oh, it's coming out. Obviously, like I put out an article because we had like the whole like symposium and stuff that's going on, and I was like, well, it hasn't like nothing was on the official FAA like calendar, which they're supposed to have in the United States. So they're supposed to have those meetings like for the public to know about. But apparently with the executive orders, they didn't have any of that stuff out. So I guess they've just been having like backdoor meetings or closed door meetings, I should say.
Yeah.
And this all came together. The draft is like, it was sent out to some people, which is why I was able to actually read it. And it is a snooze fest. But at the end of the day, there's so many people that were excited for this because they thought this was going to really apply to the average common person who goes out and gets a 107. That's really not the case. So, I mean, you really, I would say go to the zerolux.com. I do a pretty good job. I think I do of breaking down not just the press conference, but all 731 pages. I didn't just like go to like the FAA website and just like download the brochure. I've unfortunately read all 731 pages. I'm not proud of that. Yeah, it's.
But it's just. You're going to have the rulemaking process again. You're going to the comment process. Is it 30 days? I can't remember. I'm so excited about it. I just.
Oh, you mean like they have? Do you mean like they have 60 days to?
It's 60 days. It was 60 days. Yeah. And those very often in the past have had to have another 60 and another 60 and another 60. So we're by no means there. But there are a lot of the organisations that stood on the stage. It was beholden that they went, "Way!" because that's their reason for being. It really is. There's no other reason.
Yeah, it's the commercial. It's the giant corporations really that this benefits. Now there are going to be companies. There are going to be companies and pilots and stuff that are going to benefit from this, like in agriculture and stuff like that. There's specific language in that for that as well. So it's not completely, but I would say the bulk of it is really on the delivery side and the big drone companies the Amazons, the Walmarts and stuff like that. So it doesn't do a whole lot for like what people thought it was going to do, at least at this current moment, unless they decide to like redraft the whole thing, which we don't normally see that. I'm surprised, honestly, it was only 731 pages. So it is possible they expand on it a little bit, but I don't expect much. Like, people have asked me, are they going to remove trust and stuff like that? I'm like, I don't really. There's no logical reason for that. It's not really, doesn't have anything to do with like with the 108. I cover specifically obvious. The obvious is like, do you need to still get your 107? Yes, you need to get your 107. The 108 it's complementary to that. So you still need a 107 in the United States, and then the 108 is going to be complemented to that. So, and it just, unfortunately, it just doesn't do what so many in the industry thought it was going to do in relations to the 107. And then, obviously the type of flying that those pilots are doing, which isn't necessarily heavy lift drones and stuff like that. So
the RID's got an ADSB and RID got an honourable mention, and so I'm going to put your link up now, Ian, to do with RID. That was what have I done there? That was just knocking me out. I wish they'd not changed things around. Here we are. This one. Now, here it comes. So the UK is set to get RID, as you've had in America for a little while, but we're probably going to go direct to network remote. Well, not quite, but they want to show. Ian, you take over. I'm not doing very well at all going into this.
Well, originally what the UK wanted to do, but again, it was doing it against the will of the drone community. So the drone community here was asked. In fact, we were asked years ago. They called them fins, fly something and something notifications, and they asked us then, "Do we want them?" We all said, "No, we don't want this." And then they come back and saying, then they said, "Oh, do you want radio?" We all 85, 86% of us said, "No, we don't want it." So they went, "Oh, you're getting rid anyway." But then the question came about, from what I'd heard, because again, they haven't put any proper information out about everything. When you ask them on freedom of information, they apply as though, "Oh yeah, everyone knows this," and it's like, no, they don't. But anyway, we were going to go for hybrid RID, and the idea with hybrid RID, as it was explained to me, was what they were going to do was, if you had internet access, it would just ping everything over that, encrypted, you would hope, which is going to obviously have your drone's location, your location, blah, blah, blah. And if you didn't have your internet connection, it was going to put out a partial local RID, in that it would say where your drone was, but it wouldn't say where you were, but it would cache that information. And next time you connected to the internet, that entire complete information would go up. However, but then it turns out that the whole business case for this, the justification. See, the thing that annoys me is there's a lot of hobbyists on the group. People put out myths that people believe in. They're going, "Oh, we're getting all these laws because of auditors." Nothing to do with auditors. All this came up before auditors were even a thing with drones. Auditors were going around without drones originally, and then they just realized if they had a drone, they could even be more annoying. So actually, prior to all of that, it was Gatwick. So it actually says in the business case, Gatwick. To underline that, I acquired an email, and I hear there's been much upset about this coming up. Anyway, I acquired an email.
Don't mention that.
It actually again says, "We are doing this because of Gatwick." But it went on that again, it was saying, really, we want to do hybrid RID. If we do remote RID, it's a load of rubbish, really. But we've got two choices. We put in something that's rubbish, or we have to repeal legislation. And none of us want to repeal legislation because we don't want to show that we don't know what we're doing. We haven't consulted the industry properly, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, we're getting a rubbish system, and they will try and dump the costs on the industry to recoup it back. In fact, the business case literally says that they will recoup it back through forms of monetization. So people keep going as well, "Oh yeah, it's all going to be free." Well, why is the business case say otherwise? You know, don't disbelieve what it says in front of your eyes when it's on there in black and white. It's pointless. So anyway, this freedom of information was just so now not knowing whether at this point, but because all I've heard is was rumours that it hadn't been approved for the hybrid read, so we'd be getting the remote. So he was me asking it, the CIA, is this the case? And what information are you going to transmit? So the CIA, if you find their response, it'll probably be a linked document in that, Gary. Yeah, it'll be that one there. There should be an attachment, I think.
This one, the show code.
No, but just above. It's always at the top of the text in the header. There you go, attachments. So it'll be that one there. It has a link out, so it links out to one of the CIA documents. So they're like going, "Oh, well, don't you know we've already published about the metadata?" It's like, yes, you will publish the standard spec, but everyone's being told prior to that you were going to use a bit of common sense and maybe take out the pilot's data, which obviously isn't the case. So somewhere within here, there should be, I think, a link, or it just mentions it further down if you scroll down, Gary. I think they just quote out of the document. There you go. So it says here, page 45 of the UK regulations, EU 2019/945. And in here, we get the fact that it will be the geographical position of the remote pilot. And for people that didn't see the show, we had Tridge on from Archipilot, who was actually doing the coding for RID, going through the spec, and the spec demands that the accuracy of the pilot's positions far more detailed than the accuracy of where the drone is. So it's, you know,
and that's what rolled out in America. Yeah. And in America, the FAA actually asked Google and Apple to increase. Dear Apple and Google, please increase the accuracy. It was the vertical, the Z accuracy of your GPS, because it's not good enough for what we say we're going to do. They actually did that, and they said no. Yeah. And
up here, you can see their existing mobile devices. People, again, for no good reason, all trying to argue this on the internet. And this is the European standard. We know already by they mean mobile phones. The apps are already there. You can download them. You can actually buy standalone devices as well, because that's what Stephen's been on the show with one. So you can use all that. But the trouble is, because you get it on your cellular phone, that means your NIMBYs, your Karens on Facebook. You know, as soon as someone starts a rumor that, oh, so-and-so seen a drone 5 miles away from a school, but obviously he must be using a Zoom, we better go down there and batter him, they can then find your position and come up and harass you. And worse, go on.
Well, where I wanted to take this was, so you then said, dear privacy people, what's that organization?
No, I mean, all I've done is I had a quick chat with the ICO, but
ICO,
yeah, I don't know what I don't know enough around the laws on here, because I don't know whether there is.
All right, well let's leave it. Let's leave it that we're going to take legal advice. We are, and if what they've told us it should happen, we'll let that happen.
Yeah, but basically, if there is a case, some argument here, and there are some quite complicated rules, because, for example, there's greater protection for children. So if you can argue that a child could be flying the drone, there's a lot more complexity around giving the geolocation. So that there might be some, a lawyer that may be able to look at it and think, there's some angles here. But if that is the case, the ICO have said every individual pilot, business, hobbyist, etc., would have to write in themselves to their email address. So we've got it to give it if need be, but there's no point giving it out now because there might be nothing to argue, in which case you just end up annoying the ICO for no good reason.
So that's your digital ID bound to the drone as well? Your personal digital ID that's coming out.
You never know. But that's where we're going, and we're taking advice. before we tell you to do that, because it would be really bad news to bombard this particular thing. So remember when the CIA asked you if you had an opinion and you all said no. Well, this is going to be another opportunity to say, hey, no thanks, but going to the actual people that will be there when this is written. But we have to check first. But I thought it was pretty interesting that they said that to you in itself. Well, Cool Cat network, exactly, network grid incoming. It absolutely is, and everywhere, and that is going to kill, well, a lot of the industry. In fact, Bruce and I were talking about before we started. We were saying, I said, "Oh, well, have the AMA reacted to this Part 107, Part 108 message?" And it's like, "Oh, the AMA. Who are they again?" Yeah,
they'll get Rich Hansen out of his tomb, wind him up, put him out there.
I feel bad for you guys because it's such it's ineffective, it's worthless, and you know, as to your point, like Hive, like all it's doing is like transmitting on a local level, so any Karen out there could just go on an app and then find where you're at, unless you spoof your location. So which a lot of pilots are doing, whether or not they have a 107 or otherwise. I know they are. Especially FPV pilots, and FPV pilots, most of the time we don't even use remote ID because we're flying freestyle or something of that nature. But yeah, I mean, it's not something that like counter UAS, like in any type of capacity that I'm aware of, is like using to track, because they have other technology to do that anyways. So
it requires someone to be cooperative, and no bad actor is going to put remote ID on their drone, so it's kind of pointless.
But they're using different they were already using different software before remote ID to track your flight path, to track where the pilot is. They already have that technology. So
the problem was, Sean, which again we've been following and discussing, was going back to New York and New Jersey and stuff. What's happened in the US is they've been buying the wrong gear. It's all been about visual. Oh, this is great. Actually, this kid last week used a prop that I've been deliberately trying.
Oh, you bought one of those remote ID guns, didn't you, or something similar?
In America, instead of buying proper counter drone detect stuff, you've been getting drone guns and going zoom, zap, zap, boom, boom, zoom, with the RF gun. So obviously, just an excuse for me to show off my new pulse rifle, which I have weathered very beautifully.
Yeah, they like to show those off when it comes to like the cartels and stuff. The cartels does have, like, what is it? I think it's the Skyjammer, which is over like $100,000, but for the most part, they don't actually have. They're still they have some sophistication because they have been trained by they've been trained by active. But they've been trained by a lot of non-active, now mercenary, former military guys, and they've been trained by like Iranians and stuff like that. So they've obviously learned from Ukraine, Russia as well.
But the trouble is, all that learning's been a bit slow. In fact, Gary, can you bring up the Stripes link that's in the private chat? Now, this is embarrassing.
Hang on a minute. I'm just building a counter drone device. I've got a box and I've got some wires. Hang on, just give me a few minutes. And of course, I've always got handy the only thing you really need is the guarded switch. If you've not got a guarded switch, how can it be a counter drone thing? Now, come on. Right, okay. What am I doing? What am I supposed to do?
The Stripes link. This was the one where I was going to use as an excuse to get out the pulse rifle, but we've seen it earlier now.
Okay, all right. I've seen it now. I will get that. But that is, there was a city in Belgium. Straight up.
Here we go. So this is This is July 2025, and we've got a Phantom 4 being used by the US military to prove they've got a counter drone capability. And here's the problem: they're getting guys out with eyes to look for drones, and that's not how you find drones.
How does it pass health and safety? How does that pass health and safety? It's going to fall on his head if he knocks it out of the sky.
Well, just what I was going to.
Before you froze.
The RF from the gun's taking Gary's connection out there. Oh, Gary, we just missed what you were saying.
Somebody freeze frame that. That's what they. So I think I included the photo in my my cartel story about the technology they're using, both drones and then counter UAS as well. And as I even include like the Pegasus software that was basically hijacked because it's Mexico, and since the IDF basically gave it to the Mexican government at some point in time. I think I include the dates. Of course, it's going to get out to the cartels and narcos and stuff like that as well. But yeah, so it's a pretty good story. You guys should read that one as well. But it's not as like it's funny whenever I see that stuff because it's like used to just mass hysteria. It's just like, look, they're still dropping like they have learned, and they do have sophistication, and it is problematic for the United States because they're right on our back door. But at the same time, like, we should be tracking it, we should be doing something about it. But I can tell you that like they're just starting to, like, the last few years, to learn from Russia, Ukraine, like everybody is, to be fair. But I mean, they've still got phantoms dropping grenades like it's Iraq in 2018. So
the annoying thing with the US is it took, and while we're talking, Gary, if you just scroll up to this, so the tweet higher, it's got the link into the documents. You might as well click that and go to the document itself. Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, with New York and New Jersey, that was really what woke up the US. And then at that point, the FAA tasked Assure to go away and start testing all the counter drone systems. But the frustrating thing with that is that's what they should have been doing 5 years ago, making the purchase decision. Instead of which, everything's just been RF jamming and aeroscope. It's been so basic that. And then, obviously, you mentioned RID's come along, and it's been of no use whatsoever. And yes, we're lumber with it. But this is an example now of how Gatwick is being put in front of politicians in the US as part of the counter drone purchasing, and saying this is why you have to buy gear X, when it's a complete misdirect, and it's poor information, because what they're not telling the US politicians is counter drone was at Gatwick. It came in. It was the top kit that our country has, and we were developing stuff well before America ever was. We've gone down a different route of thinking you have to know where the drones are to deal with them. So I'd say we from what I've seen, the UK was ahead and had the right idea. And then obviously the kit went into Gatwick, said there is no drone going around. So the Gatwick airport reopened, everybody went off for Christmas, and they just hoped it'd be forgotten about. So here it's been presented as a clueless, careless drone incident, as though it's established, and it isn't, because freedom of information that's come out since has showed there's no evidence, and the only evidence that's there is of incompetence of people having to call up the chief of Gatwick saying, when are you going to get us these videos and photos that we've been asking you for the last 1.5 days? And then the best they can come up with is taking some video of a police drone, and they send that in. So that is the quality of information that we've actually had over here. And as I mentioned, we have the lessons learned document. And in fact, there was the DFT have complained to an extent where they were crying. And you're trying to use this as a lever and saying they'd employed a King's Counsel against me and how expensive that was. And it's like, it's your choice what solicitors you get, but why are you even trying to fight letting information out? So, that's where we are here. Everything's being fought, and that's a good thing in the US today, in like with the New Jersey and New York, the FBI, your Homeland Security organizations and all that, were honest and said a mistake's being made. These are just normal aircraft that people are seeing. But the trouble is the back out of this the companies trying to sell the counter drone, and none of them are being quite honest certainly about Gatwick. Oh, now this one's good, because I'm playing everyone. We've played Gary because
I read that.
There's about 2 reasons this could have been happening. It's the Palestinian protesters that got on the airbase, or it's Gary putting on the plane spotters videos of the jets at Lakenheath.
Yes. I can neither confirm nor deny anything about this. It's that is quite funny. And And it was always the way. It was always the way that it was like that. Let's get because we've gone over the hour. Let's get Louis' bird. I haven't actually seen this one myself. Can you see that? Oh yeah, there we are. Well, that's normal fare, isn't it? A bird strike doing that to the right. Oh, fantastic! Oh, look at that moustache! 1 million points.
Is he Spanish?
Million. I don't know. Is there anything that might suggest that? Madrid, Spain.
Look at it.
It went back. Yeah. Yeah,
the thing that surprised me with this is that certain aviation accounts on X weren't posting that it was a drone again with absolutely no cited credible source. So that was quite a shock that we've allowed it to be factual potentially.
I would just like to on record say if that person and I don't know if anybody's ever watched the show Lost and that happened and that person was on my island, I would probably drown them.
Oh, well, I mean,
survival of the fittest. I'm just saying, I don't think that they could survive on the island. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm making the decision that they bring no value to this island and they gotta go. You gotta go.
The less extreme thing would just to give them a shaver and just say, take it off, mate.
Well, no,
just shave half it off for him.
You can plainly going to bring entertainment value, and he managed to film during the emergency, so he got the story home. So he's valuable straight away.
That's true. He's I mean, the island could probably use a journalist like him.
Yeah,
I guess.
Absolutely. yeah. I mean, you can't just throw the baby out of the bathwater.
At least until his phone runs out of juice, and then I don't know what you do with him after that.
Or he runs out of moustache wax, whichever comes first.
Exactly. Now, look, we have gone over the hour by 6 minutes, and I noticed behind Ian there happens to be a Q Pilot T-shirt. Now, Ian, tell me, will you be wearing that in Richmond, Yorkshire, in exactly 1 month's time from today?
I won't, because I don't like this particular T-shirt. I don't like the blue one. I will be there without the T-shirt. So, it will be good. Maybe we can get some video clips, or maybe even do.
I think we will.
UAS News live from Richmond at the time. But it'd be nice to have something where it's international drone people, and it's here in the UK. Oh, what you could
new camera for that.
What you could do with doing Gary, that'd be helpful, is finding out if people from the UK drone community, given it is quite small, are allowed to turn up. Because I was just reading the thing on the RG Pilot forum, and it was making it sound like you could only turn up if you were RG Pilot partners of that, where there's a lot of people in the UK only know about DJI, and it'd be kind of nice to be able to let them see.
Imagine if, I don't know, some purveyor of autopilots that might be at the event might have some form of party. Imagine if that sort of thing would happen. And imagine if I would be putting it out sometime this week. Imagine that.
And imagining what people turning up, and if they like watching this show, like maybe Simon could come along.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, there's 150 devs are going to the chats, but there's flying demonstrations of various things in the afternoons on the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So there's stuff going on. I don't know. Louis probably gone because because we mentioned Gatwick, but I think Louis is going to be there as well. So, but if he's gone because of Gatwick, he's
in the States, we have the LEDA conference going on right now, and then we have the expo coming up next month. So,
yeah. Well, this is the RG Pilot Devs conference, and well, sadly, it's the most successful software used in Ukraine at the moment. But there we go. That's just one of those things. No, you can't get tickets, and I'm going to make sure that the bouncer finds you on the door, Simon. No, don't worry. There'll be something. There'll be a something for everybody else, or everybody that watches this. We will put something on. Now, I think we've kind of had Ian's hour, and have we, Ian, or have you got lots more for us?
He bought a new camera.
Oh yeah. But we can't forget that. I now have this has actually been out for a year, which is the Lumix S9, which was an incredibly hated camera at the time because it was compact without an EVF and just a flippy screen. But people love it now. It's very all the influencers have this, so I am now
Oh, you must be an influencer then. There we are. That's all you need. You have the whole.
Nobody's using that camera. Quit lying to yourself. We all moved away from Lumix like 5 years ago.
Oh no, you didn't.
Well,
Oh,
after
no.
the
What have you done? What have you done,
and the
Sean?
GH5S, we moved on. It's
Have
Sony.
you got anamorphic for it, eh?
Occasional
We're good with that
Nikon.
anamorphic.
That's it, man.
The new one has come out and it is absolutely smashing it with its partial stacks.
I love Lumix. I love Lumix like growing up.
You need to jump back to Lumix.
Growing up.
It's never happening, man. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. The only thing that would happen for me going reverse time would be if they do ban DJI in the United States, and I got to go back to flying analog. I'll do that, but yeah, I'm not. I should grab some of my film cameras up there. Yeah, I'm not.
I'm going to say for aerial stuff you won't be using it because there's no point having big cameras, but for ground stuff it's
well, everyone uses the Sony A7 whatever it is for aerial stuff.
Yeah. Well, you don't put that up because then you've got to fly that Sony dung. That's
that's exactly what we use. The big Sony things. They're the best for aerial mapping.
With the global show.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. I forgot the model number. It's like I don't know if it's
Epic or whatever. Is what you're on about? Is it?
No, Johnny's using a Kodak 110. Exactly. Yes. Now
for the hamster to wind the film on. Yeah,
that stuff is coming back. I mean, like in all the vintage like cameras and stuff. All these like athletes and stuff, like they actually they're requesting us to like, hey, do you guys have any like camcorders? And I'm like, yeah, I still have my own like Sony camera that's like legendary that I used to shoot like skateboarding videos on when I was young. Why? And then I started like looking up like the reels and stuff. Yeah, I mean even older than that. Like I'm talking like either like mini DV or like Betamax stuff. And I'm just like, it's usually a mini DV.
Somewhere.
It's usually a mini DV.
Mine uses wax cylinders.
I use I think it's a VX1000 is what I still have, or 2000, and that's what I use. But they want it incorporated with their videos now, and I'm just like, okay, well we're going retro, I guess.
Yeah, you can get little things that replace the mini DV thing with a
just plug SD. Straight in. It'll actually record to like an SD or I got
what editing software do you use?
I primarily use DaVinci, and then like I hate Adobe's subscription model. I know how to use it very well because I've used this for so long.
Movie Maker rules.
And then like Final Cut when I need to.
Oh no, I was just going to say there's a really good plugin called Signal for emulating the retro stuff. Unfortunately, I don't think it's on DaVinci.
Emulation's no good, man. It's got to be real.
Oh no. So some of the emulation's absolutely fantastic now.
Yeah, but it's not authentic.
It is.
You can't. There's no heart to it. There can be no heart to it.
No, there can be heart to it.
It's like, have you noticed CDs not as good as vinyl, eh?
And they're literally asking you.
I think we should finish the show looking at 1 second a trailer I have done retro style, and so it's a mix of old and new, and it fits in with the theme we often talk about.
What, Bruce is coming back into fashion?
Give me 2 seconds. We've got a taste of Space 1999. If I can find that.
Oh, is he still here? Space 1999. Where is he?
I use a Valve headphone amp because it's a nicer tone. Where is the Campbell? Yeah, Valve. Lovely tone, warm tone, very warm.
Well, this is great for brevity.
Cryogenically treated power cables. You've got to have those for the best audio, because forget about the other 50 miles of plain copper wire that connects you to the power station. It's that last meter has to be cryogenically treated, or your audio sucks.
But I've got the video link so you can finish the show with, which is retro application to the Mandalorian.
Oh, okay, all right.
So am I going to be? We can have all sorts of strikes now. So we're going to play out.
Copyrighted to hell back.
Yeah. This is my 1 cent for this stream going out the window now, isn't it? Yeah.
We've doubled on the reference then, Gary. You didn't tell us that.
Yeah, the whole one said that.
Rest in peace to your YouTube channel. It's been fun.
Yeah, let's get a 480. Oh, very retro.
You'll have to put the audio on. You can't have it without the audio.
I think we can. Yeah, that's not there.
Space 1999 music.
Uh,
Yeah.
Is this supposed to emulate like a space porno?
Yeah, they've got ringing on the video and everything.
It's like the intro to like a space
Overshot.
ball, a cheesy space
Have you
ball
not seen
porno.
Space 1999? Did that not be a thing in America?
No, I've seen it.
You see, they're going to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. This is Space 1999. Is prophetic.
Yes. Pathetic, did you say?
Karate.
Prophetic. It's a prophecy.
Very good.
Right.
Well, there we are. There we go. It's all that high karate. Yeah, I can smell it from here. Beautiful. Right,
I mean,
dear
Bruce-
viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. Thanks very much for joining us. Sean,
Thanks for
very much
having me.
joining us. And you must look for his channel. Find him on LinkedIn, arguing with there, because that's the only thing LinkedIn's good for. Be safe out there, everybody. We'll see you again next week, 2100 Gin and Tonic. Look out, everybody, and we'll talk more about the RG Pilot Conference. Cheers, cheers, cheers.